Certain legal documents. Durable power of attorney, a document that allows a patient to appoint a person or organization to handle affairs while they are unavailable or if they are unable to make decisions for themselves. The person or organization appointed to referred to as an attorney-in-fact or agent. You may also hear them referred to as a power of attorney or POA. Two main types include the power of attorney for healthcare purposes, which allows agents to make healthcare decisions or on the patient's behalf if they are unconscious, mentally incompetent, or otherwise unable to make such decisions. It's important to remember that this is void if the patient is mentally able to make their own decisions. So this means that if you go and pick up a patient who is having difficulty breathing and a family member comes up and says that they are the POA, if your patient is conscious, alert, and oriented times 4, person, place, time, and event, then you are not allowed to give out information to that POA even though they are the power of attorney. The second type of power of attorney is for general purposes. This authorizes the agent to act on the patient's behalf in a variety of different situations: finances, investments, buying, selling property, management of business, etc., and usually used to allow the agent to handle affairs during a period of time when the patient is physically or mentally unable to do so themselves. Guardianship. A legal relationship in which the court gives a person, the guardian, the power to make personal and healthcare-related decisions for another, the ward. These terms are important to remember: the guardian and the ward. A family member or friend may initiate the proceeding by filing a petition in the county where the individual resides, and a medical examination by a licensed physician is necessary to establish the medical capacity of the individual. This can be for a patient who suffered a severe car accident and had a head injury and were no longer mentally competent, or you may see this more in the geriatric population. If the judge finds that the person does not have the necessary mental capacity to care for his or her personal needs, the judge will appoint a guardian to make personal decisions for that individual. Unless limited by the court, the guardian has the same rights, powers, and duties over the ward as parents have over their minor children. The guardian is required to report to the court on an annual basis. Advance directives and DNRs. Advance directives are any competent patient can refuse resuscitation. It's important to remember you can't force patients to undergo CPR. Advance directives include legal documents that specifies a person's healthcare wishes when she becomes unable to make decisions for herself. If you arrive on the scene to find a patient is not breathing and has no pulse and an advance directive is present, make sure the form clearly identifies the person to whom the DNR applies. Make sure the patient is the person referred to in the document. Make sure that the document you are viewing is the correct type approved by your state and local authorities, and if the document is valid, follow the instructions outlined in the document. There is a copy of the Kentucky EMS DNR, which is the only form of do not resuscitate order in Kentucky that we are allowed to utilize. Important things to remember about the Kentucky EMS DNR is that it must be the original copy. It cannot be a photocopied in any way. It must be intact. Cannot have any damage to it. And the Kentucky EMS DNR also has a bracelet that goes with it. So patients may be wearing an EMS DNR bracelet in Kentucky. Other things to remember that DNRs, and especially in Kentucky, can be revoked at any time. If a patient's family member grabs the DNR, rips it, tears it, burns it, damages it in any way, shape, form, or fashion, that DNR is null and void, which means that you must perform resuscitative measures to the best of your ability and your scope. DNRs, there are different types of DNR orders. They may specify that the patient does not want CPR or a shock to the heart. They may want oxygen and or medications to be given. Alternately, they may specifically state the patient does not wish any resuscitative measures. It's important to remember that if a patient has a DNR, this does not mean that you cannot treat them. If a patient has a DNR, you can still put them on oxygen. You can still, do anything that you would normally do. If they have an allergic reaction, you can still give them epi. If they have chest pain, you can still give them nitro. The only thing that a DNR affects is if the patient loses a pulse and stops breathing. Some states recognize only a specific form of an advanced DNR, advanced directive for EMS personnel. As I said, Kentucky is one of those states, and they do have an identifying bracelet with them. Comfort care. Providing comfort care means giving care to ease the symptoms of an illness or injury. Comfort care includes emotional support, suctioning the airway, giving oxygen, controlling bleeding, splinting, and positioning the patient to a position of comfort. Again, as I said, DNR does not mean do not treat. You should still treat them to the best of your ability. Physician orders for life-sustaining treatment. These programs exist in some states. Kentucky is not one of them. The form summarizes advanced directives and does not replace an advanced directive. It is not conditional on losing decision-making capacity. As I said, Kentucky is not one of these states, so I apologize, I'm not too familiar with those. Advanced directives obtain consent from the patient as long as he is able to make decisions about his health care. Well, this ends the ethics lecture. Again, things to remember. It is imperative that you remember the different types of consent, the implied consent, expressed consent. Remember the guardian and the ward. And remember, I know it wasn't in the PowerPoint slides, but remember that a patient must be conscious, alert, and oriented to person, which is themselves, place, wherever they're at, time, what time of day, day of week, day of month, year, however you want to quantify that, and they must be alert to the event.